France, and I'm calling now upon Florence Lasbennes. She's the head of Secretariat for Scaling Up Nutrition, the SUN movement, coming from the water and sanitation sector. For me, SUN means sanitation. Yeah, we have all these regional sanitation conferences which are called Africa SUN, Latino SUN. So I didn't understand what does this SUN mean. So now I know it. It's the Scaling Up Nutrition movement. Florence, please, you have the floor. You see, now this is an example where people from different communities have their own language, and this also can lead to misunderstandings. Yeah? That's why it is important not only to speak in abbreviations. Florence, please.
Thank you very much. And I did not realize that one letter would make such a change. But that's maybe those who played on words to invent SUN. I'm French, it's not me who invented it. Could play maybe a bit further with SUN and SUN. I don't have ideas, but there are British guys in the room who can be inventive. Thank you very much, everybody, for inviting me to be here. Hi. She's disappeared. Hi, Katharina. We've started the dialogue. I was last week in The Hague. Thilo was 2 weeks ago in Milan at the SUN Movement Global Gathering, and I'm really pleased to have the opportunity to explain a little bit further what it is. So, SUN, standing for Scaling Up Nutrition, indeed, we characterize it as a movement rather than as a partnership. The main reason, because we thought about this, was to try to encourage whatever structure, whatever institution, whatever arrangement to bloom and take on nutrition in hands when all this movement has started. So we were thinking this idea of a movement with flowers blooming was reflecting more the spirit we wanted to impulse rather than having a more formalized partnership. So that's where it comes from, SUN Movement. It has emerged in 2010. Just to remind you a little bit about the international context at that time. We were a couple of years after the big wake-up call of the international community after the so-called global food crisis, where suddenly the global leaders were reminded that food issues in general were not automatic or were not just coming naturally, either by market or by, I don't know, whatever force, but could be led by political decisions and should be certainly better led by political decisions. So after a couple of years at global level of discussions that were more on the quantitative side of the equation, we were talking about increasing yields, increasing quantity of food produced. The Lancet articles in 2008 has helped to move the focus towards more qualitative appreciation of the food, and I think more or less naturally at global level at least the nutrition issues have taken up. The SUN Movement has been called the SUN Movement from 2010 on the basis of a framework for action that has been endorsed, signed by about 1,000 organizations, international organizations, the World Bank, the UN agencies who are working on nutrition, but also NGOs who were active on the ground, Action contre la faim being one of them, but many others. So they were paving the ground for recognizing that nutrition should be tackled with a mix of interventions. I forgot totally my slides, sorry. From a set of interventions, both specific and sensitive. So just, I forgot this one, but scaling up nutrition, the idea is to put the world on this virtuous circle. If girls and women are well nourished and have healthy newborn babies, children will receive proper nutrition, develop strong bodies and minds. Laurence has explained that very nicely earlier today. Adolescents will learn better, achieve higher grades in school. Young adults are better able to obtain work, earn more. Families and communities emerge out of poverty. Communities and nations are productive and stable, and the world is safer, more resilient, and a stronger place. That's as easy as that. Coming back where I was on the combination of interventions, it has been said also a couple of times already today, but that is very much at the basis of the Scaling Up Nutrition movement. So you can see that we were already having an eye on you guys. On the right hand, on the right hand square, you can see clean water and sanitation. It's there from the beginning. This idea that there's a bunch of specific interventions that have to be combined with sectors that have to contribute to nutrition, and nutrition is at the outcome level. I'm repeating, Josephine said it, Florence said it, Oliver this morning has demonstrated it also. That's really at the core of the Scaling Up Nutrition movement. It's combined with the idea that not one single actor, stakeholder can achieve results on its own. Governments have a leading role, obviously, but civil society, donors, business, United Nations, the technical community, and many others. As we advance in the movement, we extend also the stakeholderness or multiplicity of the stakeholders who are involved into the movement. There are more and more research involvement. There's more and more media participation. Parliamentarians are becoming a strong voice in the SUN movement. And it goes on. But again, we did not try at global level to be prescriptive on who are the stakeholders to have around the table. There was, from the beginning, a recognition that multiple stakeholders have to be there, all who have a say, or many have a say into the equation, but the equation have to be tailored in each country because it's context specific. And we didn't want to be too directive on exactly who has to be around the table, nor how it should be organized. And it has emerged in different countries. We started going on with the play on words, early risers. There were 7 countries with whom we've thought and conceptualized a little bit the approach. And then it has grown exponentially, very quickly. 7 countries in 2010. Today we have... Yeah, here is how it has grown, and actually we could add, today we are 56, Sudan has joined last week. The commitment for a country to join the movement is relatively light, in the sense that a government has to recognize the amplitude of the issue in its country, which is, for some countries, an issue in itself. Having Ethiopia, having Indonesia, having some states in India recognizing the size of the malnutrition problem and the details of the malnutrition problem. Laurence has highlighted how multiple forms of malnutrition are adding to each other at the moment rather than being one or the other. It's already a commitment in itself. And then from there, the letter for joining the SUN movement is, in short, I reckon the problem, and I appreciate that for resolving it, tackling it, I need to bring together the different sectors and the different stakeholders. And I would like to join the SUN movement, which is a platform where I will be able to share, learn, government, but also the different stakeholders will be able to learn and share, access a number of support, obviously, but that's not the primary leverage for joining the SUN movement. And that's it for now, or it has been it until now. It might change a little bit. I'll come back on this in a minute. The map of the countries who are in the movement, again, missing Sudan, to really spread into the world, though quite south, meaning question. In the future, we wonder if some of the North countries who are facing obesity issues, especially, will feel like joining the movement. We've started with a clear focus on undernutrition. There is obviously more and more recognition that even if the primary focus is undernutrition, we have to embrace all forms of malnutrition as one. But yes, mainly South countries, and in an interesting way, very often when there are a couple of countries of a region, we can bet that in the next year, all the neighboring ones will be in the movement. There's a lot of regional exchanges that are stimulated into the movement. The networks of countries, and the countries are supported at global level by 4 networks that are organized globally. A global civil society network, SUN Civil Society Network, a SUN Donor Network, a SUN Business Network, a SUN United Nations Network, that are doing their best to put together, to coordinate, to align actions, to support country efforts. The coordinator of the SUN Donor Network is in the room, don't hide, Maren is here. I think colleagues from the Civil Society Network of SUN were quite interested into being here. Some individuals must be in the room. Yeah, Maren is here for sure. Voilà. So Maren is coordinating the donor network for scaling up nutrition. From the Civil Society Network, yes, Abigail is here from Zimbabwe. It's gone all the way from Zimbabwe to be part of that dialogue today. That's it for those who are having direct responsibilities, but those networks are open. I've explained what are the commitments that are expected from governments who join the movement. Similar commitments are expected from the stakeholders of the other networks. Each network is organized on an autonomous basis, meaning I'm the head of the secretariat who is trying to keep all the pieces together, but I don't know all the details of the governance of the civil society network, which is not exactly the same one as the governance of the donor network, etc. That's how it functions. All of this is supported by a SUN Movement lead group. That is our overarching stewardship structure. I'm talking of stewardship and not governance because, and I'm not sure it's exactly the same situation in the WASH sector, but in nutrition there are big debates on what is the global governance on nutrition. And we didn't want to imply that SUN was anything like trying to be a governance body. We are working with and aligning with the Committee on World Food Security, the World Health Assembly, I could go even beyond that, the ILO for the decent work norms, for instance, and other UN, full UN membership, let's say, bodies. We are not that, and we are definitely not trying to play that role. Thus, we call about the stewardship of the SUN movement to avoid any confusion. So SUN Movement Lead Group is the highest stewardship body made of 27 high-level members, and I'm extremely honored to have one of our members being in this room, Honorable Nahas Angula, ex-Prime Minister of Namibia, one of our great champions from the beginning in the SUN movement. Thank you, sir, for being here and taking the trouble to come from Namibia also for this dialogue. The chair of the SUN Movement League Group is Anthony Lake, Executive Director of UNICEF, and there are individuals coming from country, like Mr. Angula, from UN agencies, from businesses, from civil society, and from research. The lead group has now been, from the beginning, there was only one lead group and then a coordinator. There's a new layer that has been added this year, which is an executive committee. It's a 16 members group. I didn't put the full list on the slide. I can give you the details separately if needed. The chair is Sean Baker, the Director of Nutrition of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and the co-chair is Abdoulaye Ka, who is the SUN focal point in Senegal. And same executive committee is trying to reflect the multi-stakeholder nature of the movement. And this will be more hands-on than the lead group with a group of champions. We have a coordinator also. A lot of you know him, I think, Tom Arnold, who is ex-CEO of Concern, who is also the Director General of the Irish Institute for Economic Affairs, if I'm not mistaken, is currently the coordinator. We are in the movement just at a transition period. We've had an independent comprehensive evaluation of the whole movement last year, delivered at the beginning of 2015, and as many other partnerships, we are revising our strategy and our stewardship arrangements to be fit for purpose for the Agenda 2030. Those evolutions are happening at the moment. There is recruitment underway for the position of the coordinator of the SUN movement, if you don't know what to do in the couple of next year. That is still open until next Monday. And all of this is supported and kept together, maybe more than supported by a secretariat that I have the privilege of heading. We are based in Geneva. We are also hosted by one UN agency, UNOPS, more neutral maybe than other agencies. The strategic objectives of the SUN movement. As I was saying, we are just at the moment when we are moving from one strategy to the other, so I was hesitant. Which wording do I take? That does not matter too much, I think, in the sense that there's a strong continuity, obviously, between the first strategy and the second one. Well, I wanted to highlight, to echo what Katharina was saying, we are focusing collectively in the SUN movement on the political engagement. Nothing can happen at scale, and you know that as much as we do, if there's no high-level, sustained, over time, consistent political engagement. After 5 years of the SUN movement, there is a momentum. There is a certain level of political commitment, but there's also a need to sustain that political commitment to help countries at the time of there's a change of government to make sure that the priority is not dropping. Second one, we are about prioritizing effective actions, and that's an area also where there's probably more dialogue to have amongst us. The nutrition plans, when they exist, are multi-sectoral, but most of the time our colleagues in country have difficulties to prioritize, to know where to start. I am personally thinking that in some geographical situation, in some big cities, I wonder if the first step might be WASH, actually, for really leveraging nutrition outcomes. And if I'm wrong, that does not matter, but food for thought and for thinking how your contribution could be and could certainly help this prioritization. Implementation, that's part of the calls made by Florence and the Global Nutrition Report, beyond commitment, beyond speeches, beyond plans even, action matters, and that's what will transform the situation and provide results. And like you, we have a little obsession with money, and we need to make a better use of money again. I will not repeat, Laurence has advocated for that quite robustly, and the SUN countries are trying to be upfront to show the example on how to track what they invest on nutrition, and of course from there trying to be more efficient in the use of the investment they are making into nutrition, and to call for more money also. WASH and nutrition, our dialogue, just remarks I was noting this morning. There is sufficient evidence to act together. I don't come back on this. I don't think anybody in this room is really questioning this. It's been demonstrated clearly this morning. One entry point maybe. There are different possible, but with my colleague Alam Katak, who is sitting at the back of the room, voila, thank you, Alam. We were looking, we have a database where we have all those budget lines that have been analyzed by 30 countries on what do they invest in nutrition. And we've spotted that 12 of them have counted some of their WASH investments as being part of a nutrition investment. That might be a nice starting point. And digging further and having a dialogue between the two communities into those countries might help us to be concrete. Ideas on principles to act together. It's again, yesterday with Alam, we were trying to brainstorm a bit, but that came a lot from the conversations today. Joséphine and Jean have highlighted almost the same ideas from the humanitarian field. I was not writing as they were talking. No, but just to highlight the convergence of minds, actually. Conceptual integration for planning, monitoring, and evaluation. That sounds obvious. Programmatic, complementarity would certainly help each of us to be more efficient. Geographic convergence, would increase efficiency. And I was discussing with our colleague, yes, from Burkina Faso, who will talk a bit later in the meeting. There are so many situations where the communities, the households, the mothers, because we often both target the mothers. They will one day hear some messages from the WASH community explaining to them why and how they should deal with sanitation and hygiene, and there will maybe not be the connection with the nutrition status of their kids. And the following day, they will receive another message from the nutrition people, which will not be articulated with the hygiene advice. And that sounds so easy to do. Why we don't do it? I think we all wonder for a couple of hours. I don't have more responses than the others. I was hoping there could be one strong donor who could stand up and saying, but if I was funding a joint program, could we show that we can do it? Is it the incentive that is needed? I don't know, but there seem to be missing a number of incentives for making sure we are doing it and we are going beyond what we were talking in those couple of hours. Articulating the investment cases, it's again this idea that is the first investment needing for making a change on nutrition, a WASH investment. In some situation, I don't want to generalize, but in some situation that's probably worth digging also. Combining our forces to keep the issues on the political agenda. It has been said, and I think we must do it. We are relatively in a good space at the moment. That can drop from one minute to the other. We all know that. And to achieve results, we need continuity in this political engagement. And the alliance to alliance learning, purposely I did not say movement to partnership or partnership to movement, and I found another word. It has started. Katharina and I are calling each other, say, well, how is your secretariat structured? How are you funded? What is your relation with your host, etc. Bon, there's a lot we have to learn from each other on how we are structured, the goods and bads, the strengths and weaknesses, and I think we could be much stronger all together. Thank you again for this opportunity. I don't know how I dialogue with Katharina, but
we will see how that works in a second.
Okay.
If possible, it would be great to bring Katharina back on the screen. Hello, Katharina. This is Thilo. Can you hear us?
I recognize your voice.
That's good. Hi. First of all, thank you.
Do you see me?
Yes, we see you on the screen now. So we have
Good.
both of you at the front. I can even put your name tag below the screen. Yeah. So we have you here. This is perfect. And I think, first of all, thank you, Florence, for making those suggestions at the end for ways to link. I think that's a great start. And we will take some of those ideas and pick them up in the working group discussions later as well. To get further sort of inspiration, I think what we could do at this point is maybe just open the floor, take maybe 3 questions, and then have both of you sort of reflect upon those and also sort of commenting to each other. Questions perhaps for other potential that you see in the room for possible collaboration, questions you might have in understanding. I mean, part of it's a learning experience also, understanding how do these partnerships work. Saw a hand from Lawrence. Someone else, if other hands are going up? Roland? Is this one okay?
Thank you. Can you hear me? Is it on? Yeah. Thank you, Katerina, and thank you, Florence. My question really picks up on something Florence just said.
Maybe just say your name and organization so that Katerina...
Lawrence Haddad from IFPRI. I'm standing up. You can't see me. I don't know why I'm standing up for you.
I think the camera she sees, I think, may actually be coming... Or look in the live screen.
Where am I looking?
Live stream back there.
Okay, so my question is... Sorry to turn my back to you guys. My question is, what's the incentives? So we're all enthusiasts. We're here. We're believers. We think the two communities, or most of us, we think they should be working together. But when we go back to our day jobs, we're going to have to convince our WASH colleagues and our nutrition colleagues that there's really something in it. And I reiterate what I said earlier this morning. Nutrition seems slightly stronger incentives. WASH is in our conceptual framework. We need WASH to be working well for nutrition outcomes to generate. And even then, it's hard for us to do it because we've got other things to do. You guys have different imperatives, different cultures, different ways of measuring things. But for the WASH community, it seems even harder. If your metrics are not, if your definitions of success, your donors, your governments, your NGO boards are not demanding that you demonstrate effectiveness via health outcomes, then I don't know what your incentives are beyond the enthusiasts. So I'd really like to have a very serious discussion about incentives, because I think the possibilities are there, but the incentives will drive them and make them happen.
Okay. Excellent. Lawrence, Katerina, for you, Lawrence had a great presentation before on the Global Nutrition Report that he's greatly responsible for. Roland Hansen, one of the members of the German WASH Network, please introduce yourself. And
I don't have a question.
Now it's on. Now she can hear you. Say
okay. Hello, Catherine and Florence. Thank you for your presentations. I don't have a question. I have a recommendation. Taking Uschi Eid series, we should put some homework together during the workshop. Maybe we can go for 20 country plans, including some WASH activities. And on the other side, maybe for SWA, to have some more nutrition-sensitive sanitation for all activities, to bring that forward as well.
Okay. Thank you, Roland. We can take... I don't see any hands at present, so I'll throw it back to you two. Katerina, if you... okay, there is one more hand at the back, please.
Yeah.
Maybe you can step forward in front of the camera even so people see.
But I don't want to. I don't want my back to be that way. Is that really is that necessary?
No, that's fine. Just she's seen you now. Just ask your question.
Oh,
please.
okay. All right. No, I think it's really emphasized.
Yourself at least. Sorry.
Okay,
Please.
I'm Josephine Ipe. I'm the Global Nutrition Cluster Coordinator. I really want us to, maybe in the group discussions or the afternoon session, really to kind of explore more about the question of incentive. As I mentioned it in my presentation, within the humanitarian context, when we look at how we do our response planning, all those things are articulated in terms of, what are the wash, sanitation and all those things. But then it's more, how do we hold those sectors accountable so that those interventions are really linked, and so that we can also measure the impact or whether we are delivering on it. And I really think for me, unless we are able to articulate that and then come up with ways of doing it, then it really defeats the purpose. So I would like us to maybe revisit that at our, in the sessions that we are going to look at. The reason is, regardless of whether you know all what those interventions are. If we are not really linking it geographically or at the same level in terms of households and the same individuals and so on, we will not be able to make that. You will not be able to advance. So it's basically just to emphasize the point, Florence, you made, and then also Lawrence. Thank you.
Thank you. Katarina, do you want to reply?
Yes.
Please.
Okay. It's not really, thank you so much. It's not really reply. It's simply to make some comments, if you allow me. I see fully the issue of the incentives, and we struggle a lot, well, not only at SWA, but globally, not globally, more widely, that's what I meant to say, when we talk about the WASH sector, and I fully agree with what Lawrence was saying, that in our sector it's even harder than in a nutrition sector. I agree, and we refer to that very often in our discourse. And this is precisely the reason why my predecessors at SWA, it was not my brilliant idea, why they said we must target the ministers of finance. And if we conquer the ministers of finance, then we get it. So this is the reason why we organize every 2 years these high-level meetings with ministers of finance. What is also very interesting is that we decided to organize these meetings only with ministers of finance, but then they said we don't want to come to Washington to this meeting about WASH alone. We want to bring the sector ministers, so they come with the sector ministers. And we have this debate about how investing in water and sanitation is a good investment, and talk about the issue of incentives. I'm not saying that we do it perfectly. Of course, it can become much better. And now we are having. I didn't mention to our increasing membership, but we are now undertaking a partnership drive, also targeting middle-income countries. We just got now different partners from Latin America, 5, I think, and so this is an issue. What is interesting, and we are aware of it, of course, I think that we become stronger and our arguments become stronger if we show our links with other sectors. And I think it's not by accident that our board decided to put in our actions and in the decisions references to other sectors, the importance of us to link up with other sectors, and I think that this will contribute to the incentives. Another thing that I want to say, and I will stop now because I don't want Ushi to be mad at me, it's the issue. We are now undertaking a results-based programming and budgeting, and obviously, for example, the issues that you raise now, including the proposal from the gentleman whose name I unfortunately forgot, from the German WASH or toilet network, is very relevant and interesting. So I will stay in touch with, obviously with Thilo, and I hope that next week or later this week, Thilo can brief me on concrete recommendations that came out of your discussions that I can propose to our board members in the discussions that we will have already next week on the results-based programming and on our budget. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katarina, and my pleasure. I will do that. That'll be a joy. Florence, do you want to reply to some of the comments made?
Well, like Katarina, I'm not sure it's replying. Thank you for taking one of the point and making it big. Like Katarina, I will be happy to hear what are the thoughts in terms of incentives and concrete actions. Having an objective of 20 country plans nutrition plan integrating WASH rather than only 12 is certainly a good one. What we can do together is helping the 12 to extract the learnings of how they did it. and why those 12 did it and not the others. There's probably a lot to learn there to also help the others to do it. It might not be relevant for each of them, I don't know. But that's a bit the spirit of in the SUN movement. When one is doing something that is good or felt to be interesting, we are trying to extract some learnings, make it available to the others, and that's probably something we could do together. That's it for me here. Or maybe just to add on one point from Katharina, I told her a couple of times already, we are envious that you are having these meetings of ministers of finance, obviously. On our side, what we've tried, and it did not work in every country, and Honorable Angula might have more personal experience to share in this regard, we are trying to encourage the nutrition focal points to be at a place where they have a convening power over the different sectors. And depending on the country, it means being in the Prime Minister's office. In other countries, it will be being in the Minister of Planning, but trying to indeed have them in a place where they can talk and encourage the different sectors to come together. So that's the complement, but still, we would like to piggyback on you to talk to the Ministers of Finance. Thank you.
Excellent. A big round of applause, please, for this session. And just as I will be talking to Katharina and sort of seeing what final results we have, I think we can debrief as well and see if there are things from these 12 countries that can even somehow be put into the pack of information we distribute to all these people that are looking, what can I take home from this? We'll put it on the Susanna platform and distribute it that way. That would be excellent. I've also made note of some of the suggestions being made, like Roland, I would encourage you also write one of those cards. Like I said, you will be, as you're walking to your break, walking past that board outside, and we do want to collect some of these good ideas out there. Katharina, I say thank you very much for joining us. We can't hear you. I think you're on mute. Can we hear you?
Yes, I muted myself. No, I did myself. Now, thank you so much for having allowed me to join. And I want to say, and of course, Honorable Angula, you don't remember me, but I met with you in Namibia when I was the UN Special Rapporteur on the human right to water and sanitation. And we had a very interesting discussion about sanitation. So I think that you being on the board of SUN already ensures links with our sector.
He has the microphone.
Yes, I do remember you, Madam. I just want to find out from you, how did you move from poverty to water?
How did I move from what to what?
From poverty to water. Poverty.
It was not poverty. It was already, well, it's true. It was water, sanitation in the context of poverty, yes. But it was in the context of human rights already to water and sanitation.
Excellent, and we will have the Honorable Nahas Angula on our final panel tonight. At the end of the day, reflecting sort of upon everything we've discussed today. So we look forward to that. Thank you, Katharina, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can log off then, I think.
Thank you so much.
And and I will facilitate with the group then. Thank you. At this point, I'd once again like to very much thank Deutsche Welle, because the fact that we're in a house that knows what they're doing with media let me sleep. No, not sleep, because her flight was canceled this morning. But just let me realize that rest a lot more comforted, sort of knowing we'd be able to accomplish this. I have one thing to announce before we go to your break. Or two things. The first is the good thing that I've heard that they didn't sort of throw away all the desserts and stuff from before, because I was rushing you to come down here. So those that didn't have a dessert can still have one in a second. That's first good news. Second good news is after we come back from the break, it will be your chance to, after everything you've now consumed, to also be active, and we want to engage in these 4 groups, which obviously logistically sets some challenges because we need to get you in different places in the building and bring you back afterwards. So I will ask the question again on concerning sort of these 4 issues, and ask a raising of hands again now that we've heard the other inputs. So group 1, links in global goals and commitments. We're sort of looking at this global level of commitments, how they can link, how this can be leveraged in prioritizing the issues more. Show of hands, please, for this group. Okay. The second, knowledge, research, and learning demand. Show of hand for these, please. Okay, slightly more. Potential sector collaboration, sort of a wide brainstorming on, okay, about the same as the group before. And the fourth, linking humanitarian and nutrition efforts. Okay, now which one, help me, which one was the most? What would you say? Was it the third? The third, fourth? I would, pretty even, I would say. I would ask, first of all, I'd ask the 4 facilitators to come to the front, which would be Lawrence, Oliver, Ulrike, from GIZ, and Jeremy from the Emergency Nutrition Network. And maybe number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, please. And then for your groups, just remember those faces, because later you should be in that room where these people are, otherwise you're in the wrong room. Yeah? And I think since sort of the biggest groups were 3 or 4, but I think we have a good equal distribution. Other rooms will be suitable as well. I would say maybe we take group 3 in here. We'll have group 1, which I think had now the smallest group will be just outside this room, sort of around outside the room in the entry to this place. Well, you can bring the desserts down. Yeah, do that. And then the other 2, number 2 and number 4, we will have in the rooms 108 and 110. And we'll, at the end of the break, once again, we'll sort of be upstairs with these people and then say, please follow the right person and go to your room. 108, 110, I think they're sort of, when you're heading towards the stairs to go down, they're sort of behind and on the right. So, yeah, I welcome you now to your break. I think we'll take about 25 minutes. And yeah, enjoy the dessert.